Hello, everyone. Welcome into another video here on the Guilty as Charged podcast YouTube channel. Another episode of Bolt Breakdowns. Today, on this episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than the traditional free agency stuff we've been doing on the channel, reacting to J.C. Jackson and Austin Johnson, on all these guys getting signed. That's sort of what this channel's been in the state of euphoria for the last week and a half, and it's been very fun. But I do want to talk about something that is more of a future issue than it is now. But, the market is being set right now for what I'm going to be talking about today. And what I am talking about today is the future extension that Justin Herbert will receive. Most likely, extension talks will probably start sometime after this season. Or by this season, I mean 2022, as Justin Herbert will have finished his third year on the rookie deal, then have a fourth year and a fifth year option, to be exercised later. But if you look at when these extensions kind of have happened, I think the interesting thing is for someone like Patrick Mahomes, for example, it actually happened after his third season. That was, of course, when Kansas City won the Super Bowl over San Francisco. And then later that offseason, Mahomes got the big contract that was 10 years, 450 million, up to 500 million with incentives, about 45 million per year in average salary. Of course, the guarantees of that contract were much lower. I believe, he ended up getting 141 million guaranteed. Of course, if Mahomes stays on the trajectory he's on, he will blow past that guaranteed number figure. But it's interesting, when that contract was signed at the time, it was looked as this, massive deal for, Patrick Mahomes, and it set the quarterback market, right? And in a way it did. But we since now have had two mega deals for quarterbacks that have pretty much eclipsed that Patrick Mahomes contract of a few years ago. And I think it's interesting that I think we should get into both of them. Aaron Rodgers, while not exceeding the length or the total money on a contract, has surpassed Patrick Mahomes in terms of average annual value and in terms of guaranteed money. That 4-year, $200 million contract that was previously reported is now kind of inaccurate. The number of getting all of that money guaranteed. And I was kind of debating and discussing this, going back and forth with Arjun about, hey, well, what if he retires after 2024, year one of the extension? What if he retires after 2025? And the response that I kept getting was that he gets that money no matter what, right? So in a sense, it was the first fully guaranteed quarterback extension over $100 million. And the reaction to the Rodgers contract at the time was, Justin Herbert, he's smiling real big right now, right? And all these other quarterbacks that are going to get paid, like Lamar Jackson and everyone around the league, are smiling at what their future deal could be, because the money and the salary cap keep jumping year after year. And now that was the first instance of such a huge contract that was fully guaranteed with really no conditions on it, right? Even Patrick Mahomes did not get his contract fully guaranteed. Josh Allen got a 6-year, $238 million deal, but only about 70% of that was fully guaranteed. So, you kind of look at these deals. Dak Prescott is another example of a contract where I think he got 4 years, 160 million, 121 million of that was guaranteed. So it falls right under that 75% guarantee, basically the first 3 years of that Dak deal. And we saw Stafford get a similar contract yesterday, actually, to that Dak deal of 4 years, 160 with 135 million. And then Deshaun Watson gets traded to Cleveland. I will not be diving into the circumstances regarding this trade, but I do want to purely talk about the numbers and the precedent that this Deshaun Watson contract has kind of set for the market. And I think that's going to be very important for Justin Herbert's contract, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Deshaun Watson got 5 years, 230 million, fully guaranteed. This is, of course, a reworked version of the previous contract that he signed a couple of years ago. Back in 2020, he signed a 4-year, $160 million extension with the Texans. So effectively, that's kind of ripped up now and void. And he will get 5 years, 230 million guaranteed. Average annual salary, if you divide those numbers, 46 million. Not quite record setting like the Aaron Rodgers APY figure, but of course gets way, way more money guaranteed. And it is the first quarterback contract. It is the first NFL contract in general that has had a guaranteed value of 200 plus million. And I think Daniel Popper tweeted that, he thought Justin Herbert would get 200 million guaranteed. And now it's become clear Justin Herbert is going to get a lot more than $200 million guaranteed. But this is actually a very interesting contract for a couple of reasons. I won't get into the circumstances regarding the first year and the fact that there's only 1 million in guaranteed salary, or for 1 million against the salary cap. I believe if he is suspended, there's a lot of shady stuff going on over there. But the thing that is interesting about it is a reworked version of his previous contract, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with one Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, of course, got that 10-year deal, but there is a chance at some point that they pretty much rip up that contract and kind of give him a new one, right? And I think the Watson contract, from that perspective, even though it was under different circumstances, I don't think Patrick Mahomes will ever be getting traded in that same way. You can kind of rework a 10-year deal after year 4, year 5, right? And that's what people talked about with Mahomes. So at some point, I do believe that will happen for him. So of course, I don't think that Justin Herbert personally will be receiving a 10-year extension. I think the organizations work a little bit differently, and that tying, your quarterback for 10 years is a little bit still out of the realm, right? We saw Deshaun get 5 years. We saw Dak Prescott get 4 years. Josh Allen get 6 years. I think you can expect a Justin Herbert contract to be more so in that range than any of these other deals. But what I did want to talk about with Justin Herbert's, future contract is kind of what we can expect from it. This is, of course, what he's getting paid now, which is pennies compared to what he will be getting later on. Of course, after 2024, which will be his 5th-year option, is when that new deal would kick into place, and then 2025. So that's kind of the date to look for. Of course, I think that they will start negotiating a deal or an extension likely after the 2022 season, similar to the Mahomes deal, which I talked about a little bit earlier. But I think the very clear sticking point now for all of these quarterbacks who are going to get extensions is that all of that money will be fully guaranteed. And I was talking about this with Arjun, and he was like, yeah, it's kind of wild that Rodgers, who had his stuff with Green Bay, and Watson, who has a lot of stuff going on with his contract, they're the two trendsetters, right? Pretty much every quarterback extension going forward, whether we're talking about Herbert or Lamar Jackson or any other guy, is going to follow that same kind of model. The total money will probably be different depending on, who gets paid when, right? Of course, Justin Herbert will be getting paid a little bit later than, say Lamar Jackson. But, I do think they will be having all of that money fully guaranteed. That will be the condition for these young quarterbacks going forward. And so that is going to be a big sea change of basically quarterbacks getting NBA style mega extensions, which was not a thing before in terms of getting all of that money fully guaranteed, just because of how volatile the position has been. But once you have your guy now, you want to hold on to that guy for as long as possible and, really give him that guaranteed money. So there's no complications potentially in the future. So I think, the numbers of what a Herbert contract eventually will depend on the salary cap increase, right? If we talk about what the salary cap is going to be 2 years from now, it's currently at 208 million. Some project that it'll be, 5 years from now, say 250, 10 years from now, maybe we're talking about 300 million. That ultimately depends on the growth of the league and all of those kind of ratings figures and TV contracts that we talk about all the time. But you can clearly see that the direction this is going is probably something in the realm of $55 million per year for Justin Herbert, with all of it fully guaranteed. So if you kind of use the Watson contract as a baseline, which is 5 years, 230 million, and you pretty much multiply 5 by 50 or 5 by 55, you get somewhere in the range of 250 to 300 million for a 5-year contract in total money. And all of that money will likely be fully guaranteed because of the standard that has been set here. And we've seen that with quarterback contracts in the past, where they have gotten much more quarterback friendly each time a new quarterback has gotten an extension. and set the market. So I think that is going to be the most interesting thing to watch with a potential Justin Herbert extension. So let me know what you guys think about the Rodgers and Watson mega deals in the comments down below. I think they're very interesting topics to discuss in terms of the future of the Chargers, the future of Justin Herbert, and really the quarterback economy as a whole. I will just say, if you look at over the cap right now and you look at his valuation, he's currently, of course, scheduled to make $6.6 million, and his over the cap values him at $37.6 million average annual value. And of course, that'll only go up as Justin Herbert gets more years under his belt and is putting out more Pro Bowl level performances like he did this year. And if he makes an all-pro team, be prepared to break out the checkbook for whatever he wants, even though we're already prepared to do that. But you can clearly see that this is heading in the direction of a fully guaranteed 45 plus, 50 plus $million per year deal. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I don't think Justin Herbert will be taking a Brady-style discount, but let me know what you think of the Watson and Rodgers extensions in the comments below, and I will see you.